Bienvenue to the 18th edition of Focus on French Cinema of the Alliance Française of Greenwich. My name is Renee Ketchum, and I'm the festival director. Today, we are here to have a conversation about FFC 2023's opening night U.S. premiere film, Champagne, with producer, screenwriter Xavier Nemo and FFC Director of Programming Joe Myers. We are absolutely thrilled to present Champagne in person only at the Avon Theater Film Center on Thursday, April 20th at 7:30 p.m. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you.
Xavier, thank you so much for doing this. I really just love the film, and it qualifies for what I always call a serious comedy, because while there is a lot of humor in it, it really grows out of something I think many of us have experienced, which is as we get older, it's more of a challenge to keep friends together. It's
based on, unfortunately, it's based on true facts. Yeah, I'm afraid to say. Did you start developing this and then you were joined by Nicolas? How did it work in terms of putting it together? Yeah, actually, this is a comedy that we developed internally at Dog One Productions, which is the company that I run with my associates. Renaud Laplanche, who is a French-American entrepreneur based in San Francisco. We have this company which is incorporated in Paris, and we develop content, feature films especially. And Champagne was a development that we did in 2019. As I was saying, it was based on true facts, because I got tangled in a dispute between my two best friends. The summer before that was like June 2018. During a dinner, there was a dinner party, and things went all right between two people, me and the wife of one of my best friends, and things got out of control. And all of a sudden, the people you've known and loved for the past 40 years also are no more your best friends for a while. Fortunately, we could make amends, but it took like a couple of years, and probably the film Champagne, when it came out, to bring everybody back together again. And so this film is both about friendship, old friendships, getting awry as time goes by, and the things that pull us apart sometimes, and wine, because some wines can age, really well, and some not so much. So the film is pretty much a metaphor, without being, too pompous about it, but about this and friendship and wine and how they age.
Well, I was thinking a lot about friendship. I watched it twice, actually, and it seems to me that when we're in our school years, it's easier to be tight friends because you're not working, you're not married, generally, and you kind of hang out together. But the test is once you're out in the world working and partnerships form. And I mean, one of the things in this film that really puts pressure on is one of the friends falling for a young woman who's roughly half his age, and the disapproval of the friends. I mean, it's very realistic for a comedy.
It is, and as you were mentioning the collaboration with Nicolas, and I'm sorry I missed that point in your first question. I worked on the script first by myself, and when Nicolas came in, he brought in his own experience of friendship, and that is something kind of magical that happened with this project. Everybody from Nicolas to our co-producers at M6 and Radar Film, and to the audience in the end of the line, everybody kind of projected its own experience of friendships, and the situations that the film depicts that happen in Champagne could happen anywhere else, and have. And so that's pretty realistic in a way, and it sticks to situations that very often complicate relationships, especially when it comes to people getting married, and people who have known each other since childhood and have been kind of a very tightly knit bunch of male or female friends, and then have to accept other newcomers inside this circle. It complicates things, and sometimes doesn't stand the trials of time. And like in love, when friendship is really strong, which we can witness in the film, well, these kind of vicissitudes doesn't end in too bad a
No,
conflict. Yeah, finds a happy ending. And I'm very much about happy endings as a writer. I'm afraid to say, when it comes to comedy, I also write thrillers which are not so happy ending, but this one does end quite well.
the thing I really appreciated about this movie is, despite the fact that the two writers are male, the movie really allows you to identify with most all of the characters. I mean, the woman who's introduced, the younger woman, is at first the butt of people's jokes, and she's not, the most intelligent person in the world, but you really show us from her point of view what it's like to have to cope with this clique of people who've been together for all these years. So our sympathies keep shifting, I think, as the movie goes on.
Absolutely. And what Claire Schust, the actress who plays the young woman, brings to this part is really very important, I would say surprising, as the writer and one of the producers. If you want to have the whole picture, in the first version of the script, this newcomer, this woman, this new wife wasn't that old, that young. She was a 50-something woman, same age, a bit conservative, and etc. The role evolved with the discussions that the director and some of the producers brought in, and it became this character that at first I would personally consider a bit too out of the debate I wanted to instill in this story. I mean, this age thing, which wasn't my purpose as a writer at first, but then I think Claire brought something really true to this situation, and something really unexpected, to me at least, happened. And yeah, I think her performance is outstanding, and a very good surprise in the final result of the picture.
And I think the way you structure it and the way the scenes play out, we warm up to her the same way that the friends, especially the female friends, gradually do by the end of the movie. So it seems very natural the way they eventually form a new bond.
Absolutely. The situation she gets into is very uncomfortable, and some of us might have experienced it when you try to be accepted by a group of old friends.
Yeah.
You feel sometimes really, really alone, and it's we ache with her, we empathize with her, because some moments she's going through during that weekend are extremely painful, and she does it with grace and humanity, in spite of her shortcomings, and who hasn't shortcomings, and she ends up being quite logically accepted by the rest of the group, and yeah, she's a very empathetic character. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned the year 2019 as sort of the beginning of this. Did you manage to get the film made before the COVID epidemic?
No, actually, it's a very interesting question, because the making of this movie was kind of surreal for all of us. And when I say all of us, I'm including both the producers and the actors and director, because we started the discussions with Nicolas at the beginning of the year 2020, and so it must have, yeah, it was like February when we met for the first time, and a month later everybody was locked down in Paris, but we were starting already to cast, and the actors were locked down too, so everybody was very available to read, in a way. So we were more lucky than some of our colleagues who were shoot when the pandemic broke out, and we were casting at the best moment in a way because everybody could and read the script and was happy to project themselves into what we call in France le monde d'avant, the world from before the pandemic, with friends gathering up when everybody was pulled apart and couldn't meet even your own family, even the people who
Yeah.
were at the hospital. It was a horrendous trial for lots of people, but we were all gathering distantly around this movie was talking about conviviality and friendship and the weekends in country and wine and dinners and no masks, etc.
Yes.
So it was kind of strange period of time. And when after 3 months, I believe, we were at last allowed to go outside our apartments in Paris and have the first reading with Nicolas and the actors and all the producers, etc. It was a big relief and a big moment. I remember the production had rented offices for this occasion in Paris, and there was a pétanque a field where we all played pétanque together. The actors, Nicolas and Eric Almos-Nino is a big pro at this French game, and Valérie Cassanti beat literally everybody. She was the best, and it was a great moment to share after all this time. And of course, we were wearing masks and stuff and all, but it was a very special time to prepare the film. And the shoot was difficult because, of course, we had all the requirements to uphold for COVID safety, and it was, of course, also cost. Costly in a way because we had to hire more people for the safety of the crew and actors, and we had to postpone the shoot a couple of weeks at some point because one of the crew and then one of the actors was positive.
Yeah.
But it was a strange time and a good time to work in a way, and not to mention the weather conditions that we had in Champagne, which were terrible for half the shoot. It was raining, and of course, as you know now, because you saw the film, it was supposed to happen over a very shiny summery weekend, but
Yes.
the shoot wasn't that summery or shiny. It was the worst season in Champagne in years. The vines, 30% of the harvest was lost that year in
Oh,
Champagne,
wow.
rest of France, because of hail and cold and rains, and not only in Champagne but all over France also. So it was pretty epic for the shoot. It was also extremely interesting to see the crew work. I spent quite a lot of time on the shoot, and the work Nicolas and the crew and the actors did in very difficult conditions was astounding. And yeah, they're real. I was very surprised by their endurance and their professionalism, really.
I mean, that's the magic of cinema, that we don't know either of those things, that it was made during a pandemic, and also the weather conditions. Because I mean, one of the things I thought watching the film a second time was that the setting is really another character. I mean, it's so beautiful. Yes. It allows people to sort of be themselves in a way and relax to a certain extent. One would never know that you shot that during bad weather conditions. It looks stunningly beautiful.
It is, and it was a very welcoming environment in the region of Grand Est and Champagne. Actually, I had connected with them since the writing of the project, and we have built a close relationship with the people from Champagne and from the Region Grand Est. They have been very supportive, and everybody on site near Épernay, where the film was shot, was extremely happy to have a film that would show not only the luxury side of champagne, but
Yeah.
also um, the craft and the professionalism of all the people who make this very special wine. And it was very important from the writing and during the shoot for us to put this forward and kind of shed a new light on a product and a region that are maybe too often looked as a from the angle of LVMH, which is good. I mean, luxury, etc. But it's that, but it's not only that. Champagne is much wider than this. I mean, it's a real wine with its specificities, and it's a real terroir with some very specific problems to cope with, and people dedicated to promote not only wine but also a certain image of conviviality and French way of life. And hopefully between, of course, the human interferences between characters, this appears in the film somehow, thanks to the goodwill of everybody on set and in the region.
And you also use weather as part of the climax, where we get to see what happens when the temperature goes down and the efforts that have to be made to try to keep those plants warm and not frozen. I mean, that really a gripping way to sort of end the film.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that, because most of the time when I write a film, I consider that I have the whole story when I have a clear vision of how it should end. And since the very inception of the writing, I had this vision in mind of, in April, especially when the last freezing temperatures can happen at short notice. You have these images regularly on the news of people warming up vineyards, and it's both very spectacular and beautiful and terrible, because people lose their harvest and their grapes very often in these last freezing temperatures. So I had that in mind, and also when I wrote my outline for all the characters, the weather was one of the seven characters, and it had a character's arc, really simple but quite constructed and organized, that ends up in the film in the form of the display of the temperatures and the
absolutely
dwarfs witnessing what's happening in the house and with of the friends and the weather changes. So yeah, it was definitely a character.
Now, Xavier, I've talked to producers and I've talked to writers. I'm not sure that I've ever talked to a producer writer. And is it difficult to wear those two different hats, where you're in the creative end of it and getting this thing together and creating the characters and the story, and yet as the producer, you have to be responsible in terms of finances and scheduling and all of that? How do you juggle those two?
Well, on this film, I was co-producing with M6 and Radar Films, and so I was not alone at all, especially on the financial part. They were paramount, achieving, making the film happen quite quickly, considering the standards of that profession. The project, based on the script that I developed, project was greenlit very early by Thierry Demichel and Rémi Jiménez at M6 SND, who is the distributor, and that was really the achievement of our associates, Radar Films, who have been really extremely professional and helped us a lot, and that's why we were so happy to partner with them from the beginning of a project. but I think it's more an asset to have both these
Mhm.
assets, because when you write a film, you cannot, especially in very difficult environment of production, independent production nowadays, you cannot do away with material considerations, financial
Sure.
considerations. You have to kind of be in touch with the market, and also not so much, I mean, of course, build a project from your heart, but also from your brain as a producer and an individual, I suppose. And I mean, eventually, I think both as a producer and a writer, and I'm, before everything else, I'm a movie goer and
Yes.
a movie lover, and I really put myself into the audience seat when I write and when I choose to produce this or that story. And I suppose it's more an asset in the end of the day, but of course you never accomplished anything by yourself. So, I mean, without my partner, Renaud Laplanche, at Dog One Productions, and the people we associated with at M6 and Radar, the film, of course, would have been just what it is originally, a script. And that's the magic of that business, I suppose.
The thing that makes us very happy as people that sponsor a French film festival is the quality, the quantity of movies that come out. We can only show a dozen or so each year, but I often wonder why or how the French film industry has remained so vibrant despite competition from Hollywood, other countries. I mean, it seems like there is an inherent love of French film within France that keeps that industry going.
Yeah, it's a mix of this inherent culture, I would say, for appetite for film, and of course a very strong institutional support.
Mhm.
I think it would be fair to mention that cinema in France has, um, uh, um, I would say, assets that independent production throughout the world doesn't necessarily have. I mean, as a producer, we've been on both sides of the endeavor to make films, both in the US with our first projects. That was called The 11th, was a drama set in New York, and we had a wonderful cast. Uma Thurman was in it, etc. But it was a typical independent financing, non-French financing. So it relied a lot on the market and equity and sales agents, etc. And it's a very difficult market. Not to say that it's not difficult in France, but it is more subsidized. There's an obligation for French TV channels to invest, so we can gather more soft money than you can do on the international market for, I would say, regular independent productions like everybody else, but the French intend it worldwide. So I would say that the French industry has this asset, and of course, culturally, I mean, it's intentional. What comes first? Is it the egg or the hen? I don't know, but it's a whole system that favors a strong and luxuriant production, and I'm quite happy with the evolution also of French fiction lately, because there's been more attempts to open to different genres than before, probably because there's another player now on the market with Netflix and a couple of the platforms, Disney Plus, etc. So the French producers that have been focusing on genres that were TV friendly in a way for many, many decades now kind of open up to more diversity, both in genres and actors also. Not enough, but still there has been some changes that are, I suppose, very positive in France lately.
It's interesting to me too that if you make something that is very French, very specific to the culture, I'm thinking of the Netflix series Call My Agent,
Uh-huh.
which has been so popular with people in this country I know who aren't necessarily into French film, but there's something about that series and some of the other French series like Lupin that show that these stories can reach people in other cultures. It's quite amazing.
It is probably because it in the case of 10%, it talks about something very intimate and very well researched. The person, it's Dominique Besnéard was at the origin of that series, so he shares a very intimate experience, basically, of what he's been doing a wide, big part of his life, and
Yeah.
so it's intimate and well taught, and when something is really intimate and well taught, then it becomes universal. Well, it's my creed as a writer, at least. So yeah, I mean, you don't need to be an extraterrestrial to like ET, right? It just talks
Yeah.
about essential things, human things, universal things, intimate films.
Have you already written another film that we can look forward to?
Uh, yeah, actually, we are in the process of launching our next American project. It's not a comedy at all. It's a horrific thriller taking place at the South Pole, and it's a film close to A Quiet Place. This kind of
Oh, wow.
family survival thriller. So you can look forward to it, but it's the very inception of a project. So it might take a couple of years still to make it happen, but we're working on it and hope to find the right partners for this one too.
Horror seems to be a really popular and creative genre right now. I think of some of these filmmakers like Ari Aster who are emerging in the horror genre, and in America, a lot of the movies that have done well in theaters in the past 6 months have been in the horror genre. That seems to always have an appeal.
Yeah, and it's completely different experience to watch a horror film on your tablet or iPad or in a theater. I mean, when things get really scary, I sort of
Yes.
smile. You don't have the leisure to take your phone and dial when you're in theater, or
Yes.
go take a shower or whatever. When it's scary in a theater, you just get scared, and that's the whole experience. And that's a genre that gives theaters their full um, um, value nowadays, and that's not something to neglect as a writer, producer, or a director, or whomever likes the films in theaters, because it's a very active genre, as you said, and with very talented people of all ages, and especially
Yep.
young people coming out from cinema school, and lots of also social subjects, political issues that get a special treatment, of course, because it's horror or thriller, but that can resonate with different generations of viewers or moviegoers. And I mean, we are extremely interested in what's happening, especially in the US right now with this genre, and companies like Blumhouse who manage to
Yes.
use very reasonably budgeted films with good returns, and political backgrounds, and subtexts also, which are rather interesting, and probably more effective than some artsy drama. I would try to communicate the same kind of message, but without this energy, I would say. But it's an interesting endeavor that we are launching ourselves into now.
Well, I look forward to that. And again, I want to thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
We were just delighted to have your film for our opening night. Thank you.
We're so happy that you are projecting it, and thank you so much again. Sorry not to be able to be here in person in New York. We have been busy in Paris, but probably next time, and we'll let you
Hope
know
so.
what's happening.
I hope so. Take care.